Coming up on The Returned.
I started driving and I started to speed up consciousness, but it was every substance tightening 10 times the limit. But I'm driving so fast and I am seeing lights like you see in movies, like super fast. So I sideswiped two vehicles, crashed my head, blackout. I hit a house so fast, 100 kilometers an hour, ejected out of my body.
Hi, and welcome to The Returned. The truth always follows you back. Hi, and welcome to The Returned, a place we share near-death stories, out-of-body experiences, spiritual awakenings, signs from spirit, and the journeys of healers and lightworkers from around the world. Today, we sit with Malcolm Nair, a transformational coach, speaker, and near-death experiencer whose journey from addiction, homelessness, and self-destruction to healing and purpose is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. Malcolm, welcome to The Returned.
Thank you for having me.
You're so very welcome. And before we get to the heart of our conversation today, I like to ground the audience in who you were before everything changed for you. Let's learn a little bit about who you were before your journey began. And I always like to add in if religion or spirituality played a role in your life or your upbringing.
Right. Actually, I'm not religious at all. My mom gifted me the idols behind me, even though she's Christian, but she just always growing up, she had them around. I grew up kind of understanding different religions and faiths. My mom dabbled in Hinduism, but she was Jehovah's Witness, believe it or not. So I went to all the study groups. I had a lady in her late 70s, 80s, a nice white lady that I would always go to her house and do a Bible study with every Sunday. And she also took care of me. I used to go to the big Coliseum for Jehovah's Witness. And then my mom was also, in her tradition, a Hindu, but from birth, she was a Christian because her mother is a Christian. My dad was always a practicing Hindu. But me, I just never knew about religion enough to know which one to follow. So I was never religious. There was just so much information for me. I was very insightful and aware of so much, but I never grabbed on to anything in my life and stuck. I was always that type of person my entire life. So I knew that I had a whisper. I knew that I had something else talking to me. It was like I was always talking to myself and thinking to myself when I was in the womb. I remember because I was hypnotized 10 years ago, and I remember being in the womb and I was so conscious. I was cold. I felt cold and like I didn't know what to expect when I was going to come out. As I share more of my story, you'll know why I felt cold. So also growing up, my parents divorced when I was 1 year old. My mother and father, they were in a toxic, abusive relationship. And that really kind of painted my picture early on through the subconscious. And I always had that self-image and that identity. This is love, or this is attachment. This is what mom and dad is like, family was like. I didn't know anything other than watching in the movies or going to people's homes to see what family was like. Like looking at pictures on the wall, looking at different couples and relationships. That kind of made me optimistic about life. But growing up, I was traveling back and forth from British Columbia to Calgary, Alberta, because when my mom and dad divorced, she moved to Vancouver. And she moved into the BC housings complex on low income. She was a single mother raising my sister, my older sister, and me. And then she got remarried to a Guyanese man that was my papa, uh, from like 1.5 years old. And he raised me. But that ended a few years later because he was alcoholic. So, when you see an alcoholic, like a real alcoholic, drunk, like, so I grew up with him. He would take me for walks downtown around Campbell Avenue and Hastings and go on buses and stuff. But I would see him as a drunk, and he was always tipping over, falling over, and starting fights with people. But he always took care of me. He was also a chef, but every day he was getting drunk. So I've been in car accidents with him, tied up in a booster seat or a car seat in the front of cars. Because back in those days, in the early 90s and late 80s, we're allowed to just put the car seat anywhere. And that's what parents did. Back in the day, we saw and seen and dealt with everything. Also, my mom had to move out a lot with me, my older sister. So she moved a lot. Like by the time I was 5 years old, to give you an example, she's probably already moved with us children over 25 times. And so the homes that I went to, I remember early on in my mind, my subconscious, like horror movies. When you go into enter a building and you see in a scary movie or a thriller and you hear the screams and the blood curdling screams, that was real for me because people were getting abused. You would see drugs and people getting raped and molested and needles and gunshots. I would hear gang related stuff in Hastings. I grew up there. And so I was scared all the time and cold all the time and used to it, that it was part of my subconscious, my self-identity, my life. As the years went on, I didn't realize how this lifestyle and moving out and getting kicked out and relationships and going through relationships and separation was going to be a part of my life. I didn't realize that early on. And then my mom had other partners, long-term relationships that I called uncle. And he was my dad. He raised me. He took care of me. He taught me how to play soccer, basketball. We played hide and seek. He taught me discipline, push-ups, planks, military planks, against the wall, everything, holding my ears. But he played with me. He took me for drives, but he taught me so much of that. He nurtured me, packed my food, but he was also a narcissist. So he showed me how abusive emotionally he was, and psychologically manipulative towards women. So he would check out every woman on the street, and he would talk about their private parts and their butts, and he would say, "Oh, look at her," or look at. When I'm just 3, 4, 5 years old in the back seat, he would teach me, groom me, but I don't think he knew, because why would you do that to a kid, right? Like, I don't know if he did it on purpose or that's just how he was. He was also a drug dealer. So I've seen bags and bags of marijuana. Like, I'm talking pounds and pounds of marijuana growing up early on, going to hotels, seeing big drug deals with guys in suits going on. Like, he was a big Hells Angels affiliated drug dealer. So I knew about gang life, drug life. I knew about abuse. Go to school. He'd take me to school, pick me up, drop me. He was very good as a father figure role, but he showed me things and told me how to call my mom names. He taught me she's a B, she's a, like, I don't want to say, but slut and hooker, right? Your mom is such a slut. Your mom's such a hooker. She's such a cunt. And you should call her that. When I was just in the first grade, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, he would implant this to make me happy. He would play the basketball, bounce the basketball to go to Raycam, a latchkey program, after school program, where the program picks you up, takes you on field trips and stuff like that, and movie theaters and snacks. And they just kind of raise you right. So I was a part of that program, but when they couldn't pick me up, he picked me up. But he would take me there, play basketball, soccer. Sometimes they'd pick me up, but he would literally play basketball while we're going there. And he would tell me these things. He would program my subconscious mind to believe that about my mom and women. He would make it a happy thing. He would play basketball with me and then cheer me up and would go shoot balls. So I never looked at him like bad. Like, why is he doing that? It never was a question. It was like normal because I was just a baby. I was a little kid. And so I grew up like that early on. And at the same time, I saw jealousy early on. And my jealousy came from my father's and my mother figures because of who they chose, men or women before me. So I felt a lot of hurt and abandonment issues and jealousy growing up as a child. So when my mom and stepdad or my uncle would have to watch my dad drive 12 hours from Calgary to BC to pick me up, they would always fight. And I would be in the car and I would see toxic fights. I'm talking physical, pulling, ripping shirts, screaming, crying. Like sometimes we would be there for extra hours because of the arguments and fights. And sometimes it got so bad that I had to, some summer holidays for 3 months out of the year when I would go, I wouldn't get picked up. My dad would pay a plane ticket. So from 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old to go visit my dad, I was boarding a plane. And so that feeling of emptiness, leaving my mother, and then vice versa, leaving my father after that attachment and detachment that I was going through weighed on my heart, my body, my soul. I didn't realize what it was doing to me. It's hard in relationships too, because it's hard to understand me, someone who's changing and always becoming a better version of myself, but I just have subconscious things that I had to break through my entire life. So it's difficult even today, right? But when I got older, I started to see also my father abuse women. So he was very abusive and he used to be an alcoholic. He used to drink and drive when I would go on summer holidays. So I was seeing my mom, very abusive. She was the male version, alpha male masculine, because she had to hold her own, take care of 2 children, eventually 3, right? So me and my older sister are from the same father. And then my half sister is from my papa, right? My stepdad. Wasn't too attached to him or anybody as I grew up. I just kind of lived my own life. But so my dad, coming back to Calgary, Alberta, he would drink and drive. He would sleep on couches. I would see him flirt with women while he was married to my stepmom. He was married to for 19 years. So I just had a really messed up mind seeing my uncle, stepdad versions, how they were, my mom, how she was abusive, jealous. She was always insecure. She didn't have stability. She was always questioning and had anxiety and not trusting men. And then my dad being with women that women didn't trust him. My stepmom didn't trust him, thought he was cheating. He was. He was cheating. He was sleeping around. He was doing drugs. Just to be clear, I hold no resentment in my heart today. I know they have watched this and people in the community and the family have gossiped about me being on podcasts. So I just want a disclaimer that for anyone in the world on my distant side that watches, I'm not hurt. I'm not broken. I'm not resentful. I'm sharing a story. It's just stories and it's just an understanding of my life and my perspective, how I felt and seen life. I'm not trying to portray a negative image on anybody. They all have changed. There's no toxicity. There's no guilt, shame, hate in the world. In communication with my mother, my father He's married for so many years in a healthy relationship. He's changed. He's a different human being. This is my past. I'm 39 years old. This is when I was a kid. So I just wanted to be clear.
And you know what, Malcolm, you are allowed to face your past. You're allowed to talk about your past. You are allowed to talk to others about your past. You don't need permission to do so. And also, oftentimes people heal better when they talk about their past, when they sit in that seat over and over again.
I appreciate you for saying that. Thank you so much. My sister, my older sister, has a hard time protecting me and protecting her father from all of the backlash that the community is hearing in the world, because a distant relation or a cousin or a best friend would see a podcast and send it to her like a highlight version and be like, I didn't know this about your dad. Look at what Malcolm is saying about your dad. Look at what Malcolm is saying about your mom. Look at what, is this true? And then she wouldn't know what to say. She'd be like, no, I don't know. And then she'd come to me, so that's why I'm saying that. I've never talked like this ever on any other podcast. I would witness my father do things and that I didn't know I knew it was weird. I knew it's wrong, but seeing something so early on, as you grow up, you feel it, you don't know how to relate, because when you see a grown man that's married touching someone you see as an auntie in a way, or drinking and falling asleep on a couch, or, these things creates it's just not good for my mind. It's not healthy growing up as a child, accepting that and differentiating what's healthy, what's not, and why do men grow up being in so many relationships? Why do men have abandonment issues? Why do men have narcissistic issues? It's not because they want to, or they are confused, or they don't know or how to admit. It's because they're just that messed up. Some men are just that, they don't know, and I see it all the time. And I understand, because that was what I grew up like. I was that broken later on in life, that the only way for me to see perspective was I had to be granted like a court order to go to anger management twice. I also took therapy, one-on-ones, counseling. I also was in a women's group of over 20 women to see the perspective that opened my eyes of the abused, because I was the only man allowed and welcomed, because I came in at a time where the men's group started 2 weeks. That would have been too late. And the women's just started. So they asked all the women, is it okay if this young man, I think I was only 24, 26, 25, because my car accident happened at 23. And I was going through so much other stuff in life after my car accident. I didn't change right away, and I'll come back to it, that I had to go to these groups to see perspective and understand, for me to cry, for me to see women cry, for me to see the emotions, the hurt that the abuser has caused. And I was also in the men's group before that for 14 weeks with over 20 men talking about their vulnerabilities, acceptance, and accountability, for me to be like, okay, if they can do it, I can do it. If they can admit and tell their truths, I can too. Or if they can, sit through their pain and suffering, maybe I can too. So it wasn't just my car accident that woke me up and changed my life and made me aware and enlightened. No, I was so broken that not even a car accident woke me up. So go ahead.
I'd like to premise something here just for
Mhm,
the audience.
mhm,
That we're not honing in on how bad men are and that all men are narcissistic abusers.
mhm.
Many times women can be that as well. But in this situation, we are talking about your story. And that's what happened in your story. We're not generalizing men as
No,
narcissistic abusers more
no.
than women because it is both. Women can be as well.
Yes. And coming to that point, my mom was a narcissist. So I got those narcissistic behaviors and mindsets from my mom also, and my step uh, father figures, because to accept and see the truth and to deal with acceptance and admittance was never there from my mom. She would be like, what's going on in your life? I take care. She would go to work and she would not see anything and understand. She would just put on me, just like everybody does, right? Like the blame on others, but not take accountability for the blame or acceptance you're trying to put on them. And that was hard for me and my mom. We butt heads. Me and my dad, we butt heads. So the twistedness that I had with my self identity and acceptance and being able to surrender and understand was so broken and confused that I didn't know how to put the puzzle together at all. I did not, my life, the chapters were so intertwined. And we would be here for 4 hours if I had to express every story of my life, like babysitting my 3 year old sister at 6 years old, you know, for 12 to 14 hours while my mom was at work in Burnaby, Vancouver, gang related. Back in those days, like it's dangerous. And she would come home and she would like just live her life. That's how we lived. That's how we grew up. To her, it's normal. What? All moms do this. All dads do this. That was the mindset back in the day. The accountability wasn't there. What did I do wrong? I also have my childhood stuff. My mom died. My dad died when I was a kid. My mom abused me. So I get it. I understand, but it's just expression, and it's just growth. If we can look within ourselves and look at all of these areas in our life and look within and just see how has this affected other people's lives, how it's affected my life, and not just see from the lens of your own, it's a healthy thing. It's something you don't see a lot of adults doing. And it's unfortunate. They want to brush everything under the carpet. And that led to my anger also. As I said, as I got older, like 11, 10 years old, 11 years old, my last year that I did a vacation to visit my dad in Calgary from Vancouver, my dad and my stepmom made me talk against my mother with counselors and therapists and social workers to get custody of me in a negative way. So they were normalizing my whole childhood was becoming normal how to be, how to think, how to treat men, how to treat women, how to look at life. And so it was messed up. I had to talk at 10, 11 years old that, yeah, my mom doesn't buy me socks. Of course, my mom did everything she could do for me. She celebrated every Christmas, every holiday. She did the best she could. I never was without gifts. I saw every Christmas. It was the best childhood ever. But the way they made me believe that because I didn't have socks, because I had big toes, I would always have holes in my socks. But the way that my stepmom and my dad said, oh, look, you have holes in your socks, is because of your mom because she couldn't buy you the clothes. She couldn't do this for you. Therefore, she's a bitch. She's a slut and she's a cunt. And she is not your mother. I'm your mother. Here's a brand new pair of socks. So that's how I was raised. And on the flip side, they would also teach me that you're dumb, you're stupid, you're brain dead, you flush your brain down the toilet, and you're garbage and you're shit. That's why you need to be an ESL. Me as a Canadian born citizen, I'm born and raised in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. To be an ESL, because my parents ruined my brain, my subconscious mind, that I could not focus, which led to ADHD, OCD. I had OCD growing up as a child. If I did not turn off the light switch correctly, I thought my life was going to end. I thought I was going to die if I didn't put the blanket on my body a certain way, if I didn't flip over in the air, mid-air on my mattress. My OCD was so bad that if I didn't plank my body like this, leveled, at least 3 to 4 inches off the air on my bed and get the blanket on me just right and turn on and off the light switch perfectly. I had to do that 10 to 15 times until I got it right. And I got so good at it, I was able to do it like within 4 times. And I used to sleep listening to abuse, screams from my mom, my abuse from my stepdads, and the narcissistic behaviors. And then on my dad's household, the screams from my stepmom, my dad screaming and yelling and shouting the abuse. It was nonstop, both households. Okay, life began to change way, way later in life. Way, way later in life. But just at that moment, back then I knew I had a calling that I didn't know how to tune the frequency and how to engage with it. I talked a lot of my life in my mindset about that. It was negative, like, oh, I wish this would end, or I wish I got smokes, or I wish I can hang out here or do that. It was always like in a negative way. And I would receive it. If I wanted to make my life happen in a certain way, like, oh, I'm going to move, I'm going to be with my ex-girlfriend, we're going to have a kid, or my first son I had when I was 17 years old. By the time I was 14 years old, I was getting kicked out because I became a rebel. I became toxic. I became like a defiant. Because when they took me from my mom, they enrolled me into grade 6 from grade 5. And in grade 6 is when everything started changing again for the worse. Because I was in ESL. I wasn't in ESL and all those things back in Vancouver, but in Calgary, they made me look dumb. I had reading problems. I couldn't focus. So they highlighted and pointed out my failures as opposed to bringing out the best in me. Even though I was top in sports, in art, I was in choir, I was such a great singer. But at home, I was told you're shit, you're garbage, you're like your mom, and all of the toxic traits. In grade 6 and grade 7, when I was going into grade 7 was junior high then. So junior high in Calgary was grade 7, 8, and 9. I didn't even finish grade 7. I didn't even go to grade 8. I didn't even go to grade 9. I ran away from home when I was 12. In grade 7, I ran away. I was getting sick and tired of the way I was raised by my dad and my stepmom in the narcissistic, abusive, jailed household. I couldn't even be 1 minute late from home or else I would get beat and tortured and yelled at and abused verbally, emotionally, drained by my stepmom until my dad abused us physically, like hitting us. He never did any sexual things. He's not like that. But physical abuse, emotional abuse, hands down. And what I'm trying to recall here is that it was like rules and regulations to the T, military way I was brought up and raised. So when she would verbally and emotionally abuse, it was in such a intelligent way where you didn't know how to talk back. She had you. She was a narcissist. My dad was just would unleash his anger and hit me to the point where I was not allowed to cry. If I started crying, you would have to stop crying. Then he would stop hitting you. And all because of her. She started it. She'd be like, I watched them all day for 12 hours. They didn't stop. They in and out of the room. They didn't do their homework. They're fighting. Fighting like cats and dogs, me and my older sister. And, he didn't even have a shower yet. And she would just eat his head till the point he just lost it. So I lost it eventually. I became a rebel. So I started smoking more, but I got introduced to cigarettes and alcohol when I was 8 years old. With my mom, I got away with everything. I was out late, partied, hung out with friends, did everything, did all the things, hung out with cousins that taught me things, showed me about sex at such an early age. But at my dad's house, me and my sister had to sneak out to go to a party during Halloween, go to Walmart, bring candy home and say we went trick-or-treating. So that was my life back then, just to paint a picture and make your audience understand how deep this goes. At 12 years old, I ran away from Calgary to Vancouver and life changed for the worse more. My mom didn't want me in the house. So I'm speeding up now. Okay. My mom didn't want me. She's like, go back to your dad. You're not listening. You're not finishing school. You're skipping school. I went enrolled into grade 9. So I skipped a whole year, 7, 8, went to 9. 9, they accepted me, but I was in like a special program where they had to watch me. I was like one of those bad kids where the after school teams had to like watch me. I couldn't leave class. Like I was like in juvie, but in school. um, Princess Margaret in Surrey or whatever. Anyways, I went to this school and I started doing more worse things. And my mom didn't want me. She couldn't handle me. She was with a new boyfriend at that time that was quiet, didn't say nothing to me. I was getting into cocaine and crack at 13 years old. So I started becoming a crack addict at 13, reached out to my sister. So I'm skipping a year from 13 to 14, being a crackhead. Finally reached out to my sister that had to book me a Greyhound bus ticket. We had Greyhound back then. 15 hours back to Calgary to live with my stepsisters and my sister as roommate. At 14, 15 years old, I got my first job. Things didn't work out. Things got really bad. I wasn't listening, going to the school programs and college programs. I skipped, was smoking more weed, more things. I got away from cocaine and crack, but I became homeless. They kicked me out. Nobody wanted me. My stepsister and my sister didn't know what to do with me. My dad didn't want me, didn't know what to do with me. My mom didn't want anything to do with me. And I went to shelters, group homes. I went to, I didn't stick around. I would run away from those as well. They would meet me, introduce me to everybody. I would get unpacked, and then I would leave and I would never come back. And then, so I was hitchhiking and sheltering banks, CIBC banks, TD banks. I would get a bank card in the morning, pretend I needed one, just to get into the banks at nighttime. It's all gated, but you could get into the ATM machines just to sleep. They would kick me out. I was homeless for several months until I would go to Dunkin' Donuts. It's like the Tim Hortons of today, and Dunkin' Donuts. I think they still have Dunkin' Donuts now, but everything was all smokers things back then. And I would just chain smoke just to stay there. Women and waitresses would feel bad for me. and say, you can't stay here for long. And then when they realized I had nowhere to go, they said, okay, you could stay. And then I would stay up for 24/7 for days in a row. Man, I'm just trying to fast forward my life. So 15, 16, and then I got my girlfriend at that time, childhood girlfriend, pregnant, and I had my first son later at 17. But we were running back and forth because her parents, my parents, even though nobody wanted me, they would have meetings to get the child aborted. And we lied and said we will, but she ran away back to Vancouver with me, back to Calgary with me, until she eventually had to leave me because her parents took her back, but not me back. Nobody took me back. So I struggled. I had a kid. And then she ended up leaving me when my son was 3, 4 months old. And this identity, this self-image, this self-identity added up because as I got older and got into a long-term relationship, broke cycles and patterns in my life, I ended up having 2 kids early on in life, and those cycles repeat itself. Everything from childhood that you saw growing up repeats in life. And then I'm going to fast forward because we have from 17, 18, 19, 20 to 23 years old is when my car accident happened. In between all those years, just trying to figure out life, trying to maintain and hold down a job, moving into over 25 homes, 50 homes, all the same cycles that I saw growing up as a child was happening to me throughout all those years. Not being able to hold down a job, not being able to stay in a home. The tenants or the landlords would kick me out. And in 1 year, I counted like 13 homes in 1 year I moved out of. Can you imagine in those 3, 4, 5 years, how many houses that I've moved out of? And then people in life through the grapevine that I bump into, get out of this circle, get out of this, you're too young, don't do drugs. I learned from outsiders. I didn't learn from my own family, you know. So that kind of happened to me, and it made me neglectful as a new parent, as an adult. It made me not responsible. It made me all these types of ways as an adult that I had to fight even after my car accident. So now let's talk about the car accident. So as I'm working in supply chain, I'm working at shipping and receiving. And I'm working at this supply chain for pharmaceuticals for Shoppers Drug Mart. And it was called Matrix Limited or Logistics. And I'm doing shipping, receiving, and I'm doing so many types of roles on a forklift. Everything's good. I'm holding down work. I'm good by then. Before then, I'm at another supply chain warehouse, supply chain management for Walmart for the entire Western Canada. And I worked there for several years. So I'm getting back on my feet, making money, holding my own. But I'm partying, hanging out, still drinking and smoking and smoking weed and hanging out and doing all this guy bad things that, we do after work. You want to hang out with your friends and blast the subwoofers in your car and drive around with your buddies, go hang out and go play pool, all that kind of stuff. And I go home and I'm bored with my life. And yes, I have the whispers and I'm manifesting the bad things in my life. I'm attracting because I'm thinking it. And I'm not thinking of anything good like, oh, I have a power. I can attract bad, but let me attract some good here. To me, good was like a girlfriend or cigarettes or a party, right? At those times, good to me was that. It wasn't like reprogramming my mind, healing myself, respect and love and appreciation, letting go of resentment and judgment. It was not that. It was not surrender. It was toxicity. But as I'm working, going home, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm getting to my wit's end in my life. And I'm like, nothing was good enough. No fun, no amount of fun. I've done it all at that point. I've done the clubs. My clubbing years were 17 to 23. I've clubbed like thousands of times. I didn't need to club. I've slept around. I've had the baby. I've had the drugs. I've, ex, I've experimented. To me, I felt I had that experience off my belt, off my shoulders. And I'm like, what's left in life? Like, I'm bored. No amount of anything seemed to satisfy my need or fulfill my desire. The alcohol, the drinking, the drugs, the partying, the hanging out, the late nights, nothing from Calgary to Vancouver to where you want to think about. And I believe I was just thinking it to existence. And my spirit, as unfortunate as nobody wants to hear this, but I've said it before, was leading me to an inevitable death because I was broken to the point where not a whisper was penetrating me that I needed some other type of rock bottom, because I've had 100 rock bottoms. I've had rock bottom. My pregnant girlfriend left me. My parents left me. I had abandonment issues. I had relationship issues. I smoked 2 packs of cigarettes by then. I was a chronic smoker. I was a marijuana smoker. I've done drugs. I've done everything. I've dropped out of school. I've tried to go back to school. Nothing was waking me up. So I said to myself at night, and this was the night I really felt that I was really speaking something into existence. And I'm like, and I was thinking into it. I'm like, I'm going to do this. I want to do all of this. I want all of this. Let's see if I can create it right now. Like, and I'm texting. And I've done this a lot of times. And it happened. That happened. This happened. That happened. That happened. But it wasn't good enough when it happened. I got into the car after a whole night of drinking. I was a never filling tank. Like, drinking was nothing was happening. I could have been on so many substances, and I was just not feeling good with my life. Even making money, working was not good. Nothing. And I got in the car. They're like, "Don't leave, stick around, stay. Maybe you shouldn't be driving. Do you know what you just did tonight? Malcolm, you've already done the shrooms, you've done the alcohol, you've done the marijuana, you've done this, you've done the coke, you've done the alcohol, that you're smoking, you're done. Oh, I'm good. Leave me alone. I'm going to get in, and go. I'm fine." And that was the probably narcissist in me. And that was probably the defiant in me. And that was probably the ego in me. Obviously, we have it. We have it. On our good days and bad days, we have it. And I started driving, and I started to speed up consciousness, but it was every substance heightening 10 times the limit, 10 times my blood alcohol exceeded when they did the investigation. But I'm driving, I'm forgetting where I'm going, who I'm meeting, where I'm driving. I'm going in circles, but I'm driving so fast because it's not just reality speeding up, it's the car and my foot on the gas pedal that's speeding up. And I'm seeing lights like you see in movies, like super, super fast. Pedal to the metal all the way, like I don't care type of mode, till I sideswipe 2 vehicles, crash my head, black out, and I keep my foot on the gas, go up onto a yard and hit a house. And I hit a house so fast, 100 kilometers an hour, and ejected consciously out of my body as it happened. But head first, my physical body exited partially out of the vehicle. My leg, my knee, my tibia fractured on the steering wheel. And I consciously saw that. But consciously, I'm in my body. and then I'm out of my body. Then I go back into my body and I can't move, and I go out of my body and I start to see everything. I can see without going into that family's house, the son that woke up and got startled. I could see his face getting out of the blanket. I could see him waiting, and I can hear footsteps. The two parents coming down, check in on what happened. They go more downstairs to the foundation of the house to see. The son's like, I don't know what happened. They come outside, and I'm seeing all of this, not from my body, but from my spirit. And they're like, wow. And I still think that consciously, because I've done a lot of things through my spirit, I had to drag my body, because I think I was still between consciousness and out of consciousness to be in the body. You know, when you're dying, like you're in coma, but you're like still moving a little bit. I crawled out of my car because when they did the investigation, my body, my physical body, was actually located on the passenger side of the vehicle. And when they took pictures and photos of my shirt being ripped off, the battery and the blood and everything, and drenched with blood, and my shirt is off my body and I'm limp, I was hanging off the battery. The trunk was pushed, not the trunk, the hood of the car was pushed back and the battery was out and my shirt was off the battery and I was hanging off the car on the passenger side. And I'm watching everything. Police are being called. I can hear them showing up. I can hear the ambulance showing up. I can see in space and time. At that time, I can already premonize and visualize future events, like the investigation, the yellow being strapped around and pictures being taken. I can see the investigation taking place. It wasn't happening. I was being driven to the hospital when I can see things that were going to happen in advance. And these are things that I could do. So I see things and I see, feel emotions, and I heard everything and I saw everything, and I can hear the female and the male paramedic trying to work on me, and I can hear their thoughts. They're not talking. I can hear them say, "We're losing him. He's lost too much blood. Oh my God." But she's not giving us. She's just doing what she has to do to get me to go. But I lost too much blood. I had glass in my head, the back of my head. I had 75% of nerve damage, paralysis on the right side from here, the whole hemisphere, all the way down to my toes of my body. My tongue, I had a lisp, my neck, my spine, my arm was severed, like not severed off, but the nerve damage and the muscle tearage was 75% damaged. I looked like this. When I was in rehab, I was like this. I had nothing to me. I was like this, 10 times over the speed limit. Blood alcohol, it's not speed limit, the blood alcohol level, and my nerve damage, my brain damage. I was diagnosed with brain damage. I had short-term suffering, short-term memory loss diagnosis, over 50% of blood loss. I had brachial plexus, spinal cord, C5, T1, T3, C4, all of it damaged. I had my tendons torn out of my body. I had to have them re-put back together. My blood vessels were completely cut. I had to get those put together. It was just crazy. My leg broke. This is where the magic happens. I didn't realize how powerful our spirits are and what we really are. Every time I say me and I right now forward, I'm talking about our soul, our spirit. I was telling myself, that's not true. You're not diagnosed with this. They don't know what they're talking about. I was getting not downloads. I was the download. I was the source. But as I'm getting pulled through the hospital, going through surgeries, and my spirit was always there. I can hear and see and feel every family member without even having to be there. I could be at all places at once. Literally, if you go back and hear, I don't know if you looked at all my story, but for your audience, I have to be specific. I was in a coma, but my spirit was able to come into my body and take off my neck brace, because my neck brace was causing, and the breathing tube was causing me to dehydrate, and I could not breathe. Even though I had a breathing tube and the neck brace was on, I could not breathe. My spirit knew that my body was going to die. If my spirit had not come back into my body and taken out my own breathing, remember, I said I had 75% of paralysis. When I woke up from life support, I could not move my fingers. I could not move my fingers. I literally had to go like this because my mom asked me, "Can you move?" And I said, "I don't know." I couldn't move my body, my legs, but this hand lifted up this hand and it fell. I had no feeling on this side of my body, and this side was crushed. I have these scars. I don't know if you can see on camera. I know I have darker skin, but all
Kind
of
of,
this,
yeah.
no, sorry, all of this shiny, those are all scars, and all of this, like this line here, the whole length of this and this hand. Look at this hand. That's all. So the fact of the matter is, my spirit didn't want to meet my brain to believe, to program into the subconscious mind that what the nurses, and what the families and everybody were telling me. And I can hear everything. Yeah, he may never recover the same, may never heal the same. My mom was in shock. I can hear all this while I'm in a coma. Through the telephone wire, I can hear my mom thinking her thoughts, getting the words from her head. I can see it through the frequency to reach to the other end as it's being received. That's how precise it is. And so I can hear all that, to the point where everyone's having meetings. My mom had to have a conversation with everybody. The nurses, doctors had to say, "You got to make a decision based on what he's doing and how he's responding." And taking off his neck brace, his breathing tube, and me going like this to my mother to give me some ice chips. Sorry, I'm speeding up because I'm trying to catch up. But I knew I was so dehydrated that I needed fluid. They would not give me fluid. My mom screamed and shouted when she saw that I was in a coma, but my neck brace is off. My breathing tube is out. How is that possible? He's in a coma. He's not moving. The nurses come in. They're trying to wake me up. I'm not waking up. I'm still in a coma. So they said, "Okay, well, maybe if you unplug him and wait, he will come through coma, like take me off of that." Is when my soul had a calling, a decision to make. And through it was like a gravitational pull. Like I had no choice. My spirit was being called and pulled by a higher dimension, a higher being, higher source, another reality to take me. And I was being pulled out of the hospital, through the wall, and I'm looking down at everything, and I'm watching my body, and I'm like, but that's me. But that's not me. I'm all me. In this physicalness, the body, the mind, the spirit, that consciousness, it's all spirit. We are physical, spiritual beings. We're an entire source being. we are created in the image of our source, of our spirit, of what we are, of features. And it was like, but this is me as a spirit, but that's me as a body. That's not really me. I'm the spirit. And I kept going, and I didn't know how to release. I didn't know how to, I knew some way, somehow, that if I said no, my spirit said, no, no, go back, stay in the body. I could have, but I think I would have been dead. I think my body would have died. So I believe I know I had a mission, like a higher had a higher calling for me. And I entered this, you want to call it a conscious vortex, a conscious, like it was just its own conscious wormhole to vortex. And I get into it, and now I'm just in it. And it's just, I'm in it, in that consciousness where I can see every dimension, conscious galaxy, light wave, frequency, thought wave. If I tuned in from within there, it was more powerful. And I ended up getting pulled faster and faster and faster. Where as my time and space was within my consciousness, the speed of light or speed of consciousness I was traveling to get to the endpoint wherever I was going started to diminish and started to fade into black. And I started to get into this worry, doubt and fear, and all the physical feelings in the dimension that we feel of scarcity, doubt, worry, not being able to surrender, being in the unknown knowingly, being in the unexpected, but to expect something in the unknown. It's a fine line that we don't know how to do, that it was teaching me, that I didn't learn till decade after. But I have to explain that because that's what was happening, but I didn't realize it. And when I finally just gave in and said, I surrender, I give up, or I just repent into this, that's when the fear went away and I started to see a white light. And in that white light was density. Like it was another plane, like a physicality to that dimension. It was a conscious white light. It was not just a light that you enter. It was like you're entering that dimensional space with beings of consciousness. And I entered that, and I was welcomed. I was not like, I had to be welcomed. And so I can see and I can feel and hear and see through telepathy being welcomed. They were welcoming me through their consciousness. You're home. I can hear gratitude, appreciation. Come home. Here, you're here. He's here. Oh my God. By them, there were like 12, 13, I don't know how many of them were just there lined up in rows, like 3 rows. I do remember. And then, but they were obedient towards another light form, another angelic conscious being. And that's the light being that was ready to welcome me. But before that, I was asked, what do you want to do? And that's when I had an epiphany realization of one enlightenment moment of many others that would occur in my entire life that's going to keep happening, of a life review. And I see everything that I lacked, the behaviors, the things that I needed to work on myself. the way I manipulated, used empty promises, false hopes, the people who helped me, the people who did me wrong, the life that I had, the life that I needed to have. And I feel their feelings and emotions, and it hurt. It was sad. And I just didn't want, as much as I wanted to stay, and I felt like, oh my God, this is it. Like I could stay here. Why should I go back to that life? Because I knew that life was not good. And I didn't know if I could do it again. But the feeling I had could not let me go out like that. But I was not warned and said, well, you know what's going to happen when you go back, right? No, that didn't happen. And I didn't get any warning or this is going to happen. Be prepared for this and that and that and this. It was a test. It was like, are you sure? Are you sure? And I was so hasty to be like, yes, I'm sure. I had a spiritual ego still. My spirit wasn't ready to be gone onto the other side. I had a spiritual ego that needed to still be on earth to face. And it's still hard to when I think about it. It still makes me cry to today, but I chose to come back. And in the instance I said it and thought it and felt it, I went back into the dark. Everything went away and I just ended up coming back here. And I wasn't changed. I had the same energy about me, the same mood about me, the same toxicity about me, the same behaviors about me, the same memories about me that I wanted to unleash even harder on the world and everybody around me. I didn't know how to control. I didn't know how to hold back. It was more heightened. 10x heightened. My ability, my capability, my power to heal, my ability to hurt somebody with my words, to look at somebody and make somebody cross the street and not walk past me was 10 times more powerful. My ability to make somebody stop on the road, my ability to put something in someone's brain or think what they're thinking and get them to think something else was 10 times. My anger was 10 times. I did not know how to control those abilities. I can hear people to visit me as they're getting packed in Edmonton to come to Calgary before they come to the hospital as they're registering at the registration table at Care West Rehabilitation Center. Before walking down the hallway to come to my room, I already saw it all, what they were thinking, what they're feeling. It was like I was so egotistical, spiritually and mindfully and physically, that I'm like, yeah, what do you want? Like, I know you were here. I know what you're thinking. I know why you want to come see me. I know what message you want to tell me. Just say it. And they're like, well, your dad doesn't like what you're saying. And I'm like, I knew it. Everybody just wanted to tell me some message of what my mother, my father, what my family thought of me. Because remember, nobody wanted me when I became a crack addict because of my lifestyle. When I was homeless, when I had a child, yeah, my mom was there. Like my family supported me financially. They would send me e-transfers or take me in for a week or two until they couldn't handle me. But so I was every anger was heightened, as you can imagine, as I'm expressing it on purpose. It's not a victim mentality. Trust me. It's more of I'm good at expressing the truth. And even if it hurts to hear, I will tell you like it is. So that's what was happening. And I didn't have control over it, but I had control over certain things. Years later, I had to learn how to quit smoking. I had to learn how to release the anger, go to group counseling. Remember, I had to go to the anger management. I had to learn how to love and what love is. I had to learn about forgiveness. I had to do all of this on my own to let go of resentment, pain, and suffering and anger through my own heartaches and hardships in life. how to become healthier, better, heal my body, mind, body, spirit, my gut bacteria, learn about pharmaceuticals, learn about the world, learn about the lies of reality and of the elites and the world around us and all of this. I had to learn all that. But the anger then leaving the hospital and going through all of that, I was very manipulative. They tried to get me a psychologist to try to get some merit on me that I am angry. I have a problem. Something's not wrong with me all over again. And I knew it, and it made me more angry. And it made me want to call out the truth in them and throw it in their face, which pushed them away even more from me. So my healing journey from being paralyzed, bleeding in my brain, unable to walk, in a wheelchair, every hospital appointment, everything I did by myself. Yes, I had my sister come and help me here and there, visit and take me to a couple appointments when they could. But majority, we had this taxi voucher and we had the handy bus that took us to the appointment. So, and I had everything. Wait, I'm just trying to show you back then the struggle that we have to go through in life. That sometimes if you don't have it, how can we still do this on our own and use that energy to heal? That's the positive out of this. I don't want people to go away with negativity as I'm speaking it, but my emphasis is the darkness that I was going through to overcome cycles and life cycles and patterns and karmas of quitting smoking cigarettes, drugs, addiction, homelessness, anger, narcissism, abuse, everything. That whole phase of my life was negative. How was I able to manifest positive outcomes? I was able to overcome the charges, the investigation, overcome getting my license from the board, the license board. I had to be in front of the board, in front of the judge, police officers, going to jail. I was always going to jail. I had to break those patterns, karmas, and cycles through understanding our spirit, understanding that thoughts become things. So if you think a thought, even though you're going through pain and suffering and anger and angst, which I was so in tune with my spirit to be like, no, that's not true. That's not going to happen. I'm not going to go back to jail. I'm not going to be homeless this time. I was actually using it for good, even though my emotions had to learn how to become better. My thoughts and my heightened spiritual thoughts knew better that you can heal. You can walk out of that hospital. Your bones are going to heal. I walked out of the hospital. I skipped in 6 days because I said, my spirit, you're going to heal. Your bones are fusing back together. The nurses, the doctors laughed at me. And everybody didn't want to trust or believe what I was saying. It takes a lot of letting go of someone's ego to trust in someone who is that powerful, because I speak with so much authority and power that sometimes people look at it like judgmental, right? But I have gone through a lot. So maybe a lot of this energy comes from everything I've gone through. But I was able to recover fast, very fast. I was able to do things like play with frequency. The blood pressure machine with my mind told the nurse, watch this, like it's not my anger, because they thought it was my anger. I'm like, no, it's not my anger that's doing my blood pressure. I will show you, I'll prove it. So I took a few breaths and I controlled my mind and my frequency through my spirit, and I brought it down to normal. And they were like, what? How did you just do that in seconds? Just the fact of healing and the abilities that we can do and our emotions, but it's very hard, it's challenging here on earth to face our truths and our anger. We have to do a lot of work. I had to do a journey. Remember, my car accident happened in 2023, 10 years of going through journey of quitting smoking. It was a whole pattern recognition that I had to go through to slowly go through quitting. There's a process. There's a process to forgive. There's a process to let go of resentment. I forgot to mention when I was 18, I was raped. I had to learn to let go of that. After my car accident, I held on to so much rage and anger that I didn't know how to forgive and let go of.
You experienced some of life's darkest seasons. What did those years teach you about compassion, being
Thank you.
grateful
Yes.
for people who are still here and still
Yes.
struggling?
This is what I want to talk about. Perfect. So this is where we need to understand what I was doing in hindsight, what I was going through. I'm speaking of memories of the past, okay? And the way I'm expressing it is from them. And in hindsight, I realized the compassion and the love and the self-love that I had to endure through the pain and suffering is what made me heal my bones. I didn't know it then, but because our spirit is just love, no matter how dense and hard and tough times I was going through later in life, I had to remember that it was from a higher place that got me to that place. So I had to learn transmutation, which is a term that we all know and heard, but I didn't know it then. I didn't know terms and language and these lingos. I did it by myself. I was not studied. Remember, I was a dropout, elementary, high school dropout. For me to understand, to rewire the subconscious mind was all through spirit taught me this. Spirit taught me what guided intelligence is. That was the download of what I am. What I am is guided intelligence. It is not made up. I didn't create it. We have an intelligence. And I learned to face our fears, we have to go through the fear. To face our anger, we have to go through the anger differently. I had to go through these emotions differently. And in some areas, it's hard. I've failed even now with some areas in life with my dogs. I've had pit bulls and then I had a litter. I couldn't do it. I had to let them go. And that's something I still feel like, wow, why couldn't I have done that? So I really understand how hard it is. But some of the pain that I needed to go through and learn and embrace took a lot of work. I had to accept willingly. I had to just within myself accept, even though I didn't want to. I was resentful. I had ego. Why am I doing this? I really have to do this. But it gave me insight to go through the group therapy, anger management, to look at content, to research, to watch podcasts and TED Talks and stories and interviews. I've dug deep in my soul and my body through the anger while I was going through separation, even after my car accident with my children that I had after. I have a beautiful family. I have a 8-year-old daughter. I have a 12-year-old son. You know, I have a 21. My first son he's 22. He turned 22 on the 12th. He's an amazing kid, even though I haven't been in his life since he was 12 because of situations and areas of resentment that people go through that they're unable to forgive and let go of. So my message is we have to. If I was able to do that work while in jail, I had to go to jail So I was doing all the healing, letting go and forgiveness through jail, through court orders, through custody battles, through going to court every week, going to jail, getting arrested in the jail. I went to jail so many times that I was doing my mind work in jail. I was speaking into existence that I was putting thoughts, and you know how I premonize and I can feel thoughts. I can even send signals into people's minds. So I was sending signals into the police officer to come get me to be released, get my father, even though we're not talking to help me out. He sent me, I think my bail was cheap, like $2,000. I got bailed out within 3 days, but I was being positive about my thoughts. And that's what helped me get all of these positive outcomes while I was in jail. While you're going through negative things in your life, that's my message, is we can still create. We're creating all the time. I was a smoker, but I was creating. And I was angry, but I was creating. My kids got taken away from me. And my daughter wasn't born then, but my now 12-year-old also at the same age got taken away from me, at the same age as my 22-year-old when he was 3 months old. Isn't that crazy? The same duplicate things were reoccurring in my life. Decades later.
I have a really straight up question for you.
Yes, please do.
Why do you believe this experience happened for you? Not to you, but for you.
My ego wants to say because I've been a piece of shit, but it's not because of that. I know that my spirit, source, God, the universe, my angels, when I speak, when guided and tell when I'm doing this for people, it's like I'm uneasy when I'm not serving, when I'm not doing something substantial. It doesn't feel good. I don't feel good enough when I can't use what was given to me to help serve others. And that was download decade later when I was 27, 28, 29 years old that came to me that I need to leave the corporate world. I was in sales for 15 years also. Okay. And then I was downloaded to say, leave this industry, fix your health, focus on your mindset, raise your children. I had my children. We got back together. We raised our family. She became very successful later in life. Also, we separated healthily. She's remarried. And we have a beautiful, healthy co-parenting situation. My children are with me 50-50. Everything is amazing. But it's about serving our higher self for our body, mind, and spirit here on earth to do the work. That's why we're here. That's why we're all here. I'm here. I'm here to go through these challenging times.
What about serving because it helps others help ourselves? Have you thought about that?
Serving others.
Everything you do causes a ripple effect, right? So the more you help yourself, the more you help others.
Absolutely.
Right? Now,
so through that,
if you were to serve others, living a life of serving, consciously serving, meaning show up with kindness, gratitude for life, compassion and empathy, and just being that way will help yourself and it will ripple out to everyone else. What do you think about that?
1,000%. So fast forward, I've been able to serve thousands of people, been millions of views and comments, manifested being on over 30 podcasts worldwide, internationally, on some of the top podcasts, near-death spiritual podcasts. becoming the #1 hypnotherapist in Airdrie, Alberta, publishing a children's self-help book, being able to heal and attract the homes I want to live in, the relationships I want to be in, the lessons I need to learn. We still need to face our darkness every day. We need to face our fraudulence every day, but we can mix, but we need to learn that there's a subconscious intuition that comes in the way right about here, our conscious mind and our subconscious, that we need to not confuse, because we confuse it with that dialogue that we're programmed with our entire life. And to understand how to differentiate the spirit and the source connection with our subconscious and our consciousness is something we need to learn. And you need to understand that if you have a thought wave for too long, it will stick and it will attract. And you cannot sit there naive and be like, oh, why did this happen? In that moment that you had it, you have to realize you can change reality, and you have to constantly tune into what you're changing and vibing and bringing into this world, even though you have a diagnosis, even though you have anger, even though you have pain and suffering and body aches, and you're depressed and someone passed away, or you're later in your life at a certain age. We need to understand there's step-by-step processes that I go through, that I have had to put myself through to get to those levels, to be able to understand and still be able to create while we're going through duality and this denseness. So that's the beauty in this, that we need to wake up from. Even if you're feeling down and out and depressed, there's this wakefulness that we can come out of, we can create from. Even though it feels like it goes back to square one, it really doesn't. We just got to always feed those thought processes and frequencies while we self-identify differently, and we change our self-image, and we reprogram ourselves, we hypnotize ourselves, because we're already hypnotized. We got to dehypnotize, declassify our pineal gland ourselves. We got to fast every now and then. We got to heal our mind, body, spirit. I don't do seed oils. I don't do white sugars. I don't do boxed foods. I don't do none of that. So if I'm speaking to you right now, I don't do that stuff. And I'm not doing this podcast to teach you everything I'm doing without changing those. I had to change all of that. It's been decades. I have not touched a pharmaceutical. I have not touched a Tylenol in 15, 16, 17 years. I don't do COVID-19. I thrived. I blessed. Published a book, and I did the most things during COVID. I didn't vaccinate. To each their own, but we can clean our blood now. We can fast. We can heal. We can do things. But it's just the underlying understanding that everything is trying to manipulate our subconscious, our conscious, and our frequency and our ability to heal. Our source energy is getting so tainted with CERN, the Hadron Collider in the universe and the world. Everything is causing a detriment to life itself, our soil, our fruits and vegetables. It's scary, but you need to know, educate yourself, learn. Don't think, oh, my religion is all I know. Great. God bless you, but learn more, find out more, challenge, ask questions. Don't be in a bubble.
Malcolm,
Yeah.
After everything you've experienced, I'm wondering, and I'm sure the audience is wondering, do you fear death today?
Nah, I mean, I know how to handle blood loss, brain damage, and pain, broken leg. I know what it feels like. I know what physical pain is going to be like. And, it's just, not only about that, I just know that we're here and we're there and we're everywhere, and we have somewhere where we are the beings, our higher self, or universe, God is waiting for us and watching us to be ready to do something here on earth. Whether that's your calling, whether that's what challenging yourself, whether it's to learn, whether it's to grow, whether it's to go through the heartaches gracefully, without resentment, anger, bitterness. I had to forgive my dad, my mom, my family members. Till today, I don't have no pain. I could talk about it. I don't think of the anger. I don't think of the resentment. When I'm sharing all of this from the past, I don't feel anything like negative or toxic. It doesn't mean I have to go be with them, shake their hands, say I love you and be with them. It just means that I'm over that. Being raped, being molested, my own guilt and shame and anger and problems I've gone through, I had to forgive myself. And that's what makes this life, you know, what this life is. You know, we can use this to manifest and attract. And I can show you, I'm already showing people. And so, and I'm sure you know, I'm pretty sure you haven't gone every day positive and perfect and booking all your clients in podcasts. You've had depression days where you're feeling low, and we feel those same feelings. It's maybe more for us. We feel it more than than some people, because it is overwhelming to get all of those feelings and thoughts. And it's overwhelming to be psychic, empathic, and being able to hear negativity, thoughts and feelings and emotions and what's happening in the world on top of our own personal life. So it's double, triple. Yeah.
We are humans. We are here
Yes.
having this human experience.
Yes.
So everything we experience here, I believe, is that we will learn and be able to grow from it. We're not going to be
Absolutely.
perfect all the time. We're going to swear. We might tell someone off. You know, just because you do that, you know, doesn't make you a bad person. My whole thing is 80-20. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to be 80% good, 20% bad, because I do want to enjoy this experience. We are supposed to be here and enjoying this experience while growing and while learning and while
Yes.
helping others, right?
Yes. Have a
And
higher.
I always feel if you want to help others, help yourself.
Yes. Absolutely. Right? Yeah.
So I want to ask you, everyone who returns with a truth. What truth did you return with that you feel humanity needs to know right now?
Yeah. There's so many right now, because there's so much going on in us, in the world, in other people, all around the world. The one truth that I learned is that it is not true that you only can heal, you only can be positive, and you only can manifest, and you only can attract when you raise your vibration and be a positive person, and you are a certain way all the time. That's not true, because when I was going through everything I was going through, I was going through it. I was going through everything. So I'm not saying use it for bad. I'm saying that what your bad is, what you are going through, it doesn't have to be bad. You can still think through it. Always feel through what you're going through and feeling through to a higher will, a higher hope, a higher desire, and create an image and identify and feel that you are and you can and you will and you must. And that is the beauty that Source, God, Jesus, Buddha, Allah, Bhagwan is waiting for us to do for us to get our blessing through the pain. Through the pain. There's going to be pain, but then we'll get a door open. You know, the rain will come, the sun will shine, but we are going to get our opportunities. I was going through so much when this lovely lady reached out to me, right? And it's because I practiced what I preached. I kept my hope, my thoughts, my trust alive. Things in life will still happen. You know, you can't fix everything. Yes.
You're absolutely right. So today you're helping others on their own healing journeys. And
Yeah.
so for those who feel called, can you tell us about your work, your services, offerings, published works, and where people can find and connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So over the years, I've been on podcasts. People can find me all over podcast platforms just by Googling or searching my name or Guiding Intelligence. Also, I do have a children's self-help book that a lot of adults have bought called Arnav's Affirmation. I also have a transformational mindset system that I put together. It's downloadable. You can purchase it. It's a PDFs where I put my mirror talk to help with your self-image and self-identity, thought release technique, all the substantial work that I do. I have it in PDFs that you can buy. You can purchase it. You could download it. And if you want the help and the guidance with me to help you through it, I offer coaching, a curriculum where I guide you, session per session through your daily habits and routines and rituals to understand your mind, feelings, and emotions, how to tune in, how to think, how to create, how to manifest, and how to release resentment, forgiveness, ego, fear, doubt, anger, love, all of that. I could do one-on-one with you, working with you. But, I'm still working on my website, guidedintelligence.ca, but you could just reach out to me when you find me. Don't hesitate to DM me on social media. I'm across all platforms. And I hope you enjoy this podcast and any other that you feel called to watch.
Thank you so much. And we will have all that information in the description box below. Malcolm, your story is so powerful. I didn't even get through half the questions that I wanted to ask. But I got some important ones in there. But your story is so powerful and a powerful reminder that our lowest moments aren't the final say. So I want to thank you for your honesty, your courage, and bringing your light, your love, and your truth to the returned. I know that your story will reach someone who really needs this hope today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
You're welcome. And to the audience, if Malcolm's story reminded you of anything today, let it be this. Your past does not define your future. Healing is possible. Redemption is real. And sometimes the darkest chapters become the very reason someone else finds their way back to the light. Thank you for watching. And until next time, stay open, stay curious, and keep returning to the truth within you.